Justworks, a popular PEO and HR option for U.S. employers. In this video, we're going to walk through the website, products, and services with real-life examples of how it all just works. You'll see the types of questions that we ask, how that impacts your final quote, and this is the exact same process that we use to help our clients decide whether or not we're going to take a sales call or completely cross them off the list and save 5 hours of time per vendor back on our calendar. So let's dive right in. All right. So I do want to note that Justworks recently has updated their products list, and we are going to focus on the PEO, the Professional Employer Organization. If you look at the solutions area right here, you'll see the employer of record. That's like the global version of a PEO. And over here, this people analytics piece, that's something new that they got going on. They've also recently added payroll at the end of 2023, but it's only available in select states at this time. So we're going to focus on the PEO, which is what they're known for in the community. And before we dive into the PEO, what is a PEO? That is actually great marketing here at Justworks. That's phenomenal. Most people don't know what it is. So a professional employer organization, it does bundle payroll, compliance, HR, and benefits. In a nutshell, as soon as you're able to figure out, well, who am I paying and how much should I pay them? You can take the entire employee life cycle, put it on a PEO, and they'll help you with the administration piece. A lot of people don't think about this, but when you pay somebody, for example, you pay them. In order to pay them, you need to know, well, where do they live? Well, are they allowed to work here? Am I allowed to pay them? Are they a U.S. citizen? So that's why you got the I-9, you got the W-4, you've got the state versions of the W-4s. You've also got payroll taxes that you have to pay on their behalf as an employer. You have to set aside some payroll tax and withhold according to what they've put on there. And you need to produce a W-2 at the end of the year. You also need to have workers' comp. They need to have job descriptions. You can't fire them without having there's all this compliance stuff that goes around having an employee as an employer. So these PEOs, they help you administer that. Also, they make it feel as though you're working at a large company, because I promise you, if you have 5 people on your team, you probably don't want to have a bill where you have payroll, then you have workers' comp, you got 401k, and then you got, commuter benefits and FSA and HSA. All these different things are going to make people look and feel like they work at a big company. You're able to do that on the PEO model. And it's all about the employee experience, making it super smooth, seamless. That's the goal of the PEO. I will say that I have clients that are on Justworks, and I've had clients that are not our employee benefits clients, but more of our PNC side. And they love Justworks, so we let them stay on Justworks. I'll tell you why people like it. It's simple. The user interface is pretty standard. It's simple. They don't necessarily have any like cute terms or make it difficult for you to figure out, well, what am I trying to find? It's like, hey, benefits. Here's the benefits tab. Hey, HR. Okay, here's all the HR stuff. It's pretty easy to get a hold of someone. Now, granted, a lot of my groups that I have that are on Justworks, they're mixed. There's some that are sub, 20 employees, and there's like a couple that hover around that area. Justworks doesn't necessarily promote, hey, if you're a 500 or 1,000 employee company, we want to work with you, but they do have them on their platform. They typically do really well in the small group space in most states. And look, like I find that in, less than 15 years of being on the market, I think they do a great job. We're going to dive into the benefits piece here, specifically because I saw something exciting come up on a quote at the end of last year, which was they recently added UHC. Before, most of my clients would only have access to Aetna or Kaiser. And look, Aetna is a great carrier for people on the PEO, especially ones that are in multiple states. And I think that the PEOs do a great job of layering an additional customer service for people. But I don't think Aetna has some of the raving fans that maybe like a Kaiser Permanente might. So they did have that available in certain regions. I've seen Kaiser also expanding as well in the market. The ancillary stuff, the dental, vision, I would say that there's not very many differences between that stuff. I mean, that quite frankly is like, sure, you want to make sure you get good pricing and you have good options, they got that. If you're comparing PEO to PEO, I've never seen it come down to, oh my gosh, they don't have like the dental or vision plan I want. That's not really what people care about. They do, however, you generally, if you're on Justworks PEO, I think they do a really good job as far as like creating great plan designs. And I think that the team that manages the benefits, who I had the pleasure of meeting, uh, they're very good and strategic when it comes to who are we letting on the plan up front. I've seen a lot of groups that I work with that are not in the SIC code or they're not a good fit for their employee profile. That's just kind of why you got to go through an employee census, show them some of your current payroll, your current benefits packages. They're going to vet and see, does it make sense to put you on our plan with all these other people? Why? Well, because they want to make sure that the claims are not more than what the premiums we have coming in from the employer, so we can keep those rates low as possible for the entire group. Also, we want to make sure we keep very low renewals year over year, because a lot of people who get high renewals, they want to leave immediately almost. So it is interesting to see them build up their master policy through Aetna and then moving on over to UHC or open up UHC to the groups. I think that's really cool. I'm excited to see the plan designs that they go with for the clients here in the next couple of quarters. But one thing I will say that Justworks has on a lot of people is their wellness perks. One Medical, Health Advocate, Talkspace. These are things people do have. They do have them. They do. I'm not saying that they don't, but they do a great job of making your employees understand, well, what are they getting? They also are one of the first PEOs I saw who had the IVF or infertility treatments. Like they had different wellness perks for that specifically. Part of that is because they write their plans out of New York, or some of their plans were written out of New York. And you always do want to check that at the time, but they did have IVF in there. And I think that that's amazing. They were, I think, one of the first ones to make that a benefit. I think it's absolutely awesome. Peloton, look, hey, fitness memberships like Peloton, I think it's included. Don't quote me on that. I would say if it's important to you and you're a Peloton fanatic, that might be enough to push you over the edge and get you there. Because hey, it's like what, $50 a month or so. That's awesome. Why not? Compliance support. So EPLI, unemployment insurance filings. I can testify that I've had clients where they've had issues with employees, and I thought Justworks was very good at their response time. I felt like their chat feature usually answers most of the questions that I've had as an administrator for a group. I feel like as a broker, walking clients through it, they've gotten things taken care of very well. Most of my Justworks clients are pretty silent and happy. They generally are anyways, but when they're on Justworks, they usually have a pretty good place to go and get their answers solved or get the answers to their questions. But I will say I was more impressed with this section here, this EPLI piece. We did have a group in California where, well, we've had several groups in California have this happen, where EPLI policy is just not, it's just, honestly, it's just Southern California is hard to get an EPLI policy that makes sense. Justworks was able to not only like look at the case, but, you know, they were able to help the client out. And one thing I will note is when you go to their EPLI policy, you end up being the first insured if you already have an insurance policy, and then they're the second one. So if you don't have an EPLI policy, they do come in and you do get their benefit. But what's really cool is they also give you a legal benefit where you can, you know, just go through the process and say, hey, you know, the employee's saying this. As long as you're acting in good faith as an employer and you are moving forward with, you know, again, in good faith and trying to do the right things, they can navigate you through the waters. I thought that they did a pretty impressive job, specifically because their price point would not suggest to me that there would be great customer service for a full PEO. Under $100 per employee per month, I was pretty impressed. Now, look, it does make sense to me that if you're like a 500 or 600 employee company, I don't know that Justworks is really like the greatest fit. Again, it's a PEO, so they've got thousands of people on there. As long as you have a pretty simplified process, they can probably handle it. But you know, I do think they do a good job of compliance and support, and it has surprised me ever since I've worked with them. Automated payroll with vendors and integrations. I mean, look, you can streamline a lot of things. They do have APIs. You can integrate a lot of things. Not everything is 360 though. So some of the 401k stuff is not necessarily 360. So you will want to like go through with your rep. I know in our sales process, I would want to ask like, hey, you know what? If how do you work with Zero? How do you work with QuickBooks and NetSuite? If we're doing hours and we want to track it and sync it to payroll, what systems do we have to use? Is there certain hardware that is excluded from this? Can what type of files does our hardware need to produce if we have a clock in and clock out system, and then that produces what, a CSV file, an Excel file, PDF? What can you convert over? A lot of times when you're looking at automating things, I think it's best to slow down. And before you go out and shop in general, you want to map out your process and how it's going to work, because a lot of times in the sales process, there could be some technical components that you as an HR or payroll or even founder, you may not honestly be in the weeds enough to know on the back end, how is that stuff happening? So you might need to bring in somebody a little bit more technical. If you're really concerned about integrating any accounting stuff, then bring in the CPA, bring in your outsourced CFO, bring in your finance team, bring in the person who has to find a way to make this easy. Because if you can streamline it, it's great. Streamlining the expense reimbursement process. I mean, with their HR tools, it's pretty simple. You can set up for a certain people to have access to certain expense reimbursements. You can make it simple, track it in the pay stubs. They can see when they get paid, when they don't. That's pretty much par for the course on most payroll technologies. But because Justworks started in recent times, in the last 15 years, it's a pretty slick and easy to use process. They're not using some archaic system that was built in the 80s that they just keep building on and building on. Okay. HR tools, manage paid time off, onboarding new employees. This is pretty cool. Like when you get a new employee, the experience has to be pretty smooth and seamless. I would say go through a demo. It's not quite as robust as I would say as some of their competitors, as far as like how everything works together, the types of reports you get in the back end, and like how you're really playing around with it. Again, it's really like focused on a certain size group. Like I wouldn't put a 900 employee company on their PEO necessarily, unless they were like, hey, I really like Justworks, got to work with it. Why? Because it's simple. It's simple to use. It's kind of like the difference between somebody who enjoys an Android versus enjoys the simplicity of using like an iPhone or iOS product. Tracking key business metrics. They do have a lot of great tools and reports, of course, because they have information. When did your employees start? How much are you paying them? Whatever you put in the system is you're able to manipulate those reports and get out. Full service support. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but they really do a great job. Even as a broker, like I manage this process. However, I managed this process on my side and was, helping out, but they did a lot of the heavy lifting for us. It wasn't much that we needed to do, aside from evaluate a lot of the folks in the very beginning, look at the different insurance plans and make sure that it was going to be fair and equitable for the group today, and make sure that we understood when Justworks renews their plans and what the increase could or couldn't be. When we're doing an apples to apples comparison, depending on the time of year, you're going to want to know, when does this PEO renew? Is it December? There's certain PEOs that the month that you sign up, that's actually your renewal date. There's certain PEOs where if you sign up, say in June, then you're actually in Q2's renewal. April 1st would be your renewal. There's some that, renew in November, December. So you're going to want to ask Justworks, hey, when does the plan renew? HR consulting. Okay, so when you look at the HR consulting piece, I want to highlight the fact that it is consulting. They're going to tell you what best practices are. They're not going to own the information that they give you. So, think about it like it's a coach, it's an advisor. You're in the game, you got a coach. They're going to consult you. They're going to give you information on what they think you should do. They'll even give you access to third-party attorney services where you can chat with some folks. And look, if it goes above and beyond it, we just identified a problem. Now we have to come up with a long-term solution. I think that's where they do a good job of explaining where the line is between this is your responsibility, this is ours. It is your job to actually manage your employees, but they're going to give you best practices and coaching along the way. So if you're an HR team of one, your company's building, this could be a great solution for you to have some extra support or just somebody to bounce some ideas off of, because you're like, hey, you know what? We're thinking about doing this bonus. I'm not sure if in Ohio we can pay this person monthly. Do we need to change our payroll cycle? We're worried about this employee. What are some best practices as far as one-on-ones, employee management, all that stuff? They help you out and they're pretty responsive. I can't speak for everyone, but I know my accounts have always, or my clients' accounts that, I'm a broker partner on, they've always had like one person that they can reach out to. I also have like a direct, sales rep. I have a business development person as well. So I feel like most of the time when you need something, you're able to solve it pretty quickly. I do think that they do a great job in a lot of areas, keeping things simple. But I will say this: these IRS certified and ESAC accredited pieces, I hate to say it, but it doesn't really mean much. I'll tell you why, because it's likely that the PEO, like when you have a PEO, it's not just one PEO. A lot of times it's a PEO and they have multiple PEOs. Like they spread out their risk. Like there might be what they call exchanges or bands, where it's like, hey, this demographic of people with this type of risk profile we put over here. The ones that are with this type of risk profile we're going to put over here. Why? Because you start to separate out the classes, and then maybe even with like the different either industries and stuff, they're going to all be different. So I said all that to say that's not necessarily how Justworks does it. You'll want to talk to them if this is a concern. But if you're really worried about IRS certified and what that means is, yeah, IRS certified, you can go here and see if they're accredited. It basically means they meet certain credentials that the IRS has made that a PEO needs to have in place, certain insurances. At the end of the day, like, you should be able to roll over the payroll taxes and not have to do a restart. But that ends up being if if you're on the certified PEO. We've had clients before on PEOs that are certified, IRS certified, and like sales rep was all happy to tell them about it. But then when we went to look at the tax reconciliation for switching in the middle of the year, the payroll taxes did start over and we didn't get any credit for it at the time. So this ended up not meaning anything, even though the rep said that. Luckily, when we were going through the process, we prepped the company for that. But that's not just a Justworks thing. That is a PEO at large and an IRS certified PEO tidbit there. So yeah, they're saying rest assured, we'll keep you compliant, all that. All this says is, hey, you know what? Everybody that's in the industry kind of knows this is a little goofy. Even this, like, yeah, sure, it's a credential, they're bonded. I think that that's phenomenal, great, but it doesn't really mean that one PEO is better than the other. It just really doesn't. And a lot of times clients don't really benefit from this. It just says, hey, we're up to date and we're willing to participate on any of these different governing bodies that protect you as a consumer. So look, with the PEO, I think that it's a great product. I don't have anything bad to say as a consumer. I have my own thoughts as a partner, how we can have access to certain things and be more helpful to our clients. But I personally don't find that as a struggle. We're pretty involved with our clients and working with them on a lot of different levels. So we don't have any issues with Justworks on the service side. Hey, we just went over the PEO. That's all we went over. Again, there is other solutions that they have. You'll want to check those out. For pricing, you'll want to look at the pricing for the PEOs. It's pretty simple. They use it right here on the website. It's $99 per employee per month. If you get over 50 people, they drop it down 10%. And you'll see that there's plus and then there's basic. With basic, there's certain things you don't have access to, but you can carve out benefits and use basic and still enjoy the PEO, I believe. So you'll want to, again, like, check it out, see at the time, like when you're going through the whole sales process and doing a consultation, which one makes the most sense for what I'm trying to do. Is it plus or is it basic? Most of my clients, I say, hey, if you're going to manage everything in one system, let's manage everything in one system and do it. Some people want to hang on to certain tools that they've used forever. Some people may be using Justworks as a bridge before they like blow up and do something else. Some people may just want to be cutting costs a little bit, but the difference between $40 per employee per month versus all the things that you would have to manage between this one and that one, I'd say go over here and use the plus package 9 times out of 10. If you were to compare these two, again, like here's all the different things you get. You get most of the basics. Most of the basics. A lot. But when it comes to COBRA administration, I personally think you should leave that with the PEO. Health advocacy services, I think you should have that with the PEO. Your benefits overview, I think you should have it with the PEO. One medical and kind body. I don't know if you remember earlier in this thing when I said that they were ahead of their time with the IVF and the infertility treatments. They were ahead of their time. Kind body is an excellent resource. So if you have executives that are looking to, take advantage of this, they've got really cool resources for you that make you feel like you're at a huge company still. You might be trying to get people over from, hey, I got these people and I want to bring over this consultant from McKinsey, or I want to get this person from, Boeing or, from HubSpot over to help me build my next big software platform. They're going to feel like they work there still, or at least their family will because of the benefits that they have. And I think that these items here they're worth their weight. They're worth their weight in their gold. They're worth their weight in gold if you've actually used these things before and you want to use it. So let's see what else they have here. Workers' comp required, all the R&D tax credit, medical travel benefits, dental vision insurance. Look, like as a broker, yeah, like you can come in, we can actually set all this stuff up. It's fantastic. It's great. But if my clients are looking at a PEO and they're going to go on Justworks, I would prefer them to just go ahead and do it all and be done with it. Because, mixing and matching things together to save a little bit of money. I'm pretty sure when they say this is more popular, it should be more popular. I hope it is. Otherwise, I'll say, hey, you guys should probably put this video in front of your people who are paying $59 a month. And I'm telling you, I think you should definitely, if you can afford it, go over here. But, look, at the end of the day, whatever the client needs, that's what they need. I just know how much time and energy it takes for COBRA administration and to set up the benefits overview and how much is going to be involved from your HR team or anybody who's at the company. Somebody's got to do it. So you might as well have the PEO step in and handle it for you. If you have questions about Justworks or other companies we're considering, schedule a time on my calendar this week. I'll help you think through all your different options in less than 30 minutes. Now, in that 30-minute call, you're going to walk out of there either knowing exactly who you want to work with, or you're going to have very clear defined next steps on what to do. And hey, if it makes sense for us to work together, phenomenal. But if not, I'll feel good knowing that you have all the information that you need in order to make a decision that's right for your company. So take care and best of luck. See you soon.